Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this Friday morning. Ending a great week here on the show. Got another big week coming up next week with some really good video. But today we have a guest in the studio. But first, let's take a look at our weather brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning, Drew Pollard and his hardworking crew taking care of our everyday comfort needs. And it's going to be comfortable today. High of 78, low of 68. We'll have a little bit of rain tomorrow. We'll wait and see, but water temperature is hanging in there right at the magic number, 68 degrees. So now we can start saying that Spanish is going to really start coming in officially. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Take a look at our river readings. Apalachicola to Bluntstown is right at 11 foot. It's got a little bit of drop to it. The river's going to be in pretty good shape. Some folks like to fish around that 8 to 9 foot mark. Choctaw at Caryville, its reading this morning are at a 5.6. Slow, steady drop, and it should be like that for the rest of the weekend, according to how much rain we get. So it's going to be, the river's going to be in good shape. Take a look at the tide chart. Today is at March the 24th. We finally got a little bit of tide coming in today. It's pretty good tides coming in tomorrow. The low tide this morning is 11:44. I'm sorry, the high tide is 11:44, and the low tide is going out to about 11:43 tonight. The wind's going to be coming in out of south about 14. Okay, we're going to take a break, come back with our special guest. Welcome back, folks, and welcome to our guest this morning, Mr. W.C. Harlow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Winston. I appreciate you letting me be here.
He's making his television debut, and I've known W.C. a very long time. Our roots go back together way back to Liberty County and T-Logia, and we sit here, we about couldn't get the show started talking about some of these old stories back. But he is an avid outdoorsman, known his kids who came through, and we're just glad I only asked him to be on the show about 10 years ago. I asked him to come on, so finally he's getting around to it. But we're so tickled to have you. So WC, tell folks a little bit about yourself.
I was born here in the corner of 5th and Magnolia in Panama City. Graduated from Bay High in 1959. My father moved over here in when he got out of World War II, and I've lived here, started grammar school in 1946 in Springfield.
Okay, and you always been outdoor stuff, right?
I was born before my father went in World War II, and my mother and I lived with her daddy, my granddaddy, and we lived down below T-Logia in Liberty County. And I was the first grandchild, and so we lived there with them, and then every summer, every holiday, I stayed there with my granddaddy. And his name was Joe Faircloth, and I called him Pa Joe. And he taught me. Back then we hunted, but the hunting was to supplement our diet. For example, when you shot something, you only used one shell. You did not shoot anything unless you were going to eat it. And it enabled us the family to have other food source. Back then, around June the 1st, fishing season opened, and we'd have a big family gathering down at the creeks and have
T-Logia Creek?
T-Logia and down in Ocklawaha River. And they would be 30, 40 family, friends and all. And the game warden back then, one of them was named Loke Chester. Mr. Chester and my granddaddy, Pa Joe, were childhood friends, buddies, and he would come and visit with us and eat because we had a big cookout. And bear in mind, we had no refrigeration, so you did not catch excess fish, you only caught what you ate. And he would stop every now and then and say, I got to go down here and check these guys. And he would catch people from Alabama and Georgia down that, one, did not have their fishing license. Two, they would have excess of their limit. And it really upset him when they had excess of their limit, because that was food wasted. And he was coming, it was to supplement your diet. And if we caught excess fish, my granddaddy had a list of people that we'd drop off on the way back home. We called it a mess of fish, enough for them to have, for them and their family, to have something to eat. No food was wasted. And, you didn't have a refrigeration. We had a wood burning stove to cook on. We had kerosene lamps. We had a fireplace for heat, a tin roof on the house, and if it rained, we'd have to move the bed around so it wouldn't get wet. And
that's awesome.
I was real young, and when it get real cold, they would heat brickbats and heat them up and put them in the bed with me and use it as to keep me warm, because I was the baby of the group. And
wow.
My granddaddy was special to me.
Well, how many times can you see on TV and get an eyewitness account of really what happened back in the frontier days of Florida, and eyewitness there, and hear these stories about putting bricks in bed with you to get warm, and I wish we want you to document all these stories, because not many people are doing that now. Loke Chester was, of course, part of the family tree. He's on part of the family tree, and that's how we've known each other, telling stories. I knew him, but as a little kid, but I really didn't have enough knowledge in. I wish I'd have sat down and just listened to him. And he had some kind of stories about that area.
Mr. Loke, back then, if you called anybody by their first name, you always used Mr.
Yeah.
And because my granddaddy would hit me with his hat if I did something wrong. But Mr. Loke had, gosh, I would be just spellbound. I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and just in awe of listening to him and my granddaddy talk about growing up, and about the girlfriends they used to go date, and how how Mr. Loke became a game warden. Now, we call them game wardens. I don't know what you call them today.
I still call them game wardens.
And he was so funny, and he was the only fellow that I knew that could get my granddaddy's, make him kind of shut up from talking. He knew a lot of stories about him.
Well, a lot of stories I remember from my dad and granddad and about that area. Moonshining was fairly popular back because there's so much woods and water back there, and there were just amazing stories I heard. Well, we don't have time to get into all these stories, because we got to start. We're going to talk about turkey hunting, because that's what this guy does. So we're going to take a break and come. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Sitting with our guest, Mr. W.C. Harlow. So glad to have him. He's going to definitely have to come back, and we'll tell some of these old stories. Now we've got to find out, you were in the banking for a good while, and you're a veteran. We want to make sure everybody knows he's a proud veteran, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But how long were you in banking?
35 years.
How did you decide to go into banking here?
I was working in Alabama, and I wanted to come home. My children were born in Alabama and Georgia, and we wanted to come home. And he knew a director, and they were in need of a person to handle their taxes and insurance and loan payments. And I started as an adjuster with First Federal in 1970. And then I worked my way up to 2005 when I retired. I was a commercial loan officer, and I mainly worked with speculative builders and also doing those condos on Thomas Drive. I did several of them as a construction loan and development.
And that's the problem. We'd probably do another whole show on that kind of stuff, couldn't we, later? But let's move on, because we have some pictures, and we want to go through these pictures. So let's, first of all, let's establish the fact. When did you go on your very first, you've been turkey hunting since how long?
I started turkey hunting when I was approximately 8 years old. I started with my granddaddy's brother, and he was about 5'6", had no teeth, smoked a pipe, Prince Albert, and I used to go with him, and he used a single barrel 36-inch shotgun. And back then we used paper hull shells. We didn't have the other type, new modern shells. So I would go with him, and he and I would make palmetto fawn blinds, because back then he wore blue pants, blue chamois shirt, no camo at all. So we'd build palmetto fawns for our blinds. And back then was very nervous. We called it palsy. It's when you couldn't control the shakes of your hand. Some people call them tremors. When he got ready to pull the trigger, I don't know how he did it. He just, 1 second, it was complete steadiness. I never seen him miss a turkey. When he ejected his shells, the extractor was broke because the paper hulls would swell. He'd take his pocket knife and pop the shell out.
Okay.
And this was probably 49, 50, somewhere in that.
I remember you talking. I remember asking you one time. You said you've been turkey hunting since 1948. How many of you folks know somebody's been turkey hunting since 1948? So let's look at some of these pictures here, WC. So let's tell us about this one.
This is in the late, about 79 or 80. There was 3 guys, including myself, that we could not take our boys on any hunts. So we formed our own little group. We got 5 boys there. The oldest boy is about 13, 14. The youngest boy is 9. And there's 3 adults. And this is the first turkey hunt that the middle front little boy killed, that 20-pound gobbler. And it was back behind Sand Mountain, which is east of.
And that's your son. That's Clark right there on the left, bottom left.
And that's
he's grown some since then.
Huh?
He's grown some since then.
Yeah, he's 6'3" now.
Okay.
He's these guys now are in their late 50s.
Wow. I know they remember that trip. All right, we're gonna move on. I didn't know you deer hunted that much.
I deer hunted a lot. This was
As a young man.
A trophy buck in this area, and about on public land in about 1982.
All right.
This is a white-tailed deer that I killed in Saskatchewan with a muzzle loader.
You came along from Telogia to Saskatchewan. That's a long.
And if you notice by my right arm, that's a drop tine.
Oh, yes.
That's a 10-point drop tine. He weighed over 300 pounds.
Whoa. Wow.
This is a snook that I caught down in Tampa Bay with
Greg. Did you go to Greg?
with my good friend Snooky Bear as the guide, and I don't know if I can say his name. Can I say my partner's name that was down there with me?
Greg Burnicki?
Greg Burnicki was.
Sure, you can.
We fished down there for over 10 years.
I want to go down to this film. Y'all just hear y'all talking back and forth. Of course, I'd have to edit a lot of it, but anyway, I bet that's fun.
That's a 20-pound redfish I caught in Chochatchee Bay.
Chochatchee. All right. Good deal.
That's a 14-year-old kid with a 20-gauge shotgun that killed that turkey up here in the edge of Bay County. And I showed him where to go and set him up, and it's the first or second turkey he ever killed.
Wow, cool.
That is again a redfish caught in Chochatchee Bay. Oh no, that's
a trout. That's a trout, right? And then
that's a turkey I killed in Americus, Georgia, outside of that.
All right.
And that's another one I killed up there.
Did you ever keep a record how many you've taken?
I've been asked that a lot, Winston, and I want to kind of I've been hunting since I was 8 or 9 years old. I haven't hunted every year because of raising a family, illness in the family, but I've been, I figure somewhere over 70 plus, but we never keep a count.
Yeah.
There's some people that keep the beard and the feet and all that there. I never have been an advocate of that.
You couldn't eat those, could you? Okay, so how about this big buck right here?
That's one I killed in Georgia. That was weighed, for Georgia, that weighed over 200 pounds.
Wow, that's a fine one.
And then again, that's another red I caught.
Out of Choctaw Bay?
Yeah.
All right, what about these boys?
These two buddies of mine, we were in Americus, Georgia, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turkey tail fins. We killed those turkeys in 3 days.
Wow. Did you help call them in?
I called the two I killed, I called them in. The other guys called in their own.
All right. All right, let's see, we got a couple more.
This is a young lady that's 11 years old. That was her first turkey. She killed him with a 410, and I called him in for her. And
She's got a big old grin on her face. She's happy, isn't she?
I'll tell you, that little old girl, son, she is dead.
Yeah.
That's one I killed. Many years ago, back then, we didn't have cameras and phones, and that was to show the extent of his.
The spurs. A lot of people don't understand what the spurs are for and all, but that's the spurs. A lot of people have seen them before. That's the spurs.
Also, it shows you the coloring of the tail of his wings, and some people say they're different species. Well, I don't know. I'll just leave that with that the way it goes.
Okay. All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll be right back with W.C. Harlow. Welcome back. Welcome to a young man I've known for a very long time. We figure about 50 plus years now, so we've been trying to get him to come on the show for a long time. His kids finally talked him into coming on. W.C. Harlow. Son Clark is out in Houston, Texas. Leslie and her husband live around Valparaiso. And so we're going to talk, let's talk about your son-in-law. And you presented this cap to me, so tell me, and these flies, tell me about him.
My son-in-law is Jim Kelly. He's active in this Healing Waters Veterans, and that's the hat cap. And he is a veteran himself, and he's active in the fly. And he has made these flies here for Winston so that he can go out and maybe catch him a red or tarpon on a fly rod. And
thank you so much. I promise you I'm going to try these out within the next week or two, I promise. So we got to move on, and I brought him on to talk about turkeys since he's been turkey hunting since 1948. So let's finally get to really the details of turkey, and you're one of the most successful turkey hunters in the Southeast, I know. So, okay, so go with it.
I'm not really, there's a lot of guys a lot better than I am. There's, when we started out, my uncle was my great uncle. He used holly leaves and bay leaves, and he would call with that. Back then, there were not that many turkeys. So when a gobbler answered his call, he quit, and we would wait. Sometimes it would be an hour and a half, but sooner or later he'd start sneaking in. Back then that was paper hulls. Then it got into plastic hulls, and the shotgun barrels decreased in length. The camouflage come in, and then the commercial grade calls come in. The first call that I can remember was box calls, and this is a box call. This is made by Lynch in Mississippi. I've had this one since 1989. He was the first one in this area that was successful in commercial box calls. There are multiple box calls on call now, on record now. some from Pennsylvania. There's a guy in Headland that makes a box call that's called a hustling hen. His name is Billy White. And I carry 2 box calls with me when I go. This is a friction call, and it's you rub the slate. It's a slate inside. And this is by Ben Lee. In fact, Ben autographed it. I've had this one since '88, but it's now faded where he signed it. And Ben was a big old 300-pound, red-headed, gregarious guy. He could call, gobble, and even emulate a barked owl, all with his natural mouth. He was one of the best callers I've ever heard. Even though he wasn't a turkey hunter, I met Fred Bear, and wow. If you remember, he crossbows or in bows, bare arms, and he was a big old lanky guy, quiet. The only way you get him to talk is talk directly to him.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Eddie Salter from Bruton, Alabama. Eddie could yelp, could sound like an owl. Again, naturally, without using any calls. And so you got the box call, the slate, a friction call, and then the last one is a diaphragm call. This is a call that is the hardest to master. It is from 1 to 3 latex wrapped in a aluminum horseshoe with tape.
Put it in your mouth and.
Because people's mouth, the palate is different size. Some of them have to trim it. Some of them have to bend it. I like the 3. They call it 3 reeds. I like the 3 because it's a more raspier call. Every call I use is a very raspy call. The gobbler likes to go to the boss hen, and she is usually has a very raspy call. The young.
Okay, all right, listen, I knew it was going to happen. I knew we were going to run out of time because WC has so many stores and so much expertise. So the good part about this, he's going to come back on the show. We're going to make him promise to come back on the show and finish up some of this and tell some of these stories. But I told you we're going to run out of time, didn't I?
Yeah.
That was great.
Now, you have to understand, you messed me up from going turkey hunting this morning.
Okay, we'll wait out the turkey season.
Well, the season is in now, and I made an exception to come see you, old rascal.
I know, I appreciate it much. We got to get out of here. We're going to do our giveaway Monday, so y'all be ready to do something good for someone this weekend. Have a great day, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.